everyone, hope you're all staying safe and healthy with your families. For today's guest, we're welcoming back John Doyle, who has been a guest on the Serie A halftime show. John is a reporter for the Globe and Mail and has an incredible passion for soccer. Of course, we want to talk to you about soccer. You have had such incredible experiences around the world. You've covered World Cups, you've covered the Euros. I'm curious, have you ever seen something like this affect soccer at such a global scale?
No, I haven't. And I think you have to go back many generations for there to be to have witnessed a complete shutdown of soccer and of professional sports in general. It is a testament to the power of soccer, the allure of the game, and how vital it is that many things have happened over the years. Wars, 9/11, SARS, these things have happened, but soccer kept on going. And now it's, I think, a testament to the seriousness of the pandemic that it has at last shut down.
Of course, and soccer is such a big reflection of society. It pretty much represents the culture of each country, specifically Italy, if we're talking Serie A. What do you think this suspension of Serie A, this uncertainty for the rest of the season, reflects back on Italian society?
Well, that's a large question, Camilla, but I think really there are sort of two parts to this. There are two issues involved. First, what this current shutdown situation illustrates to us about the role of soccer in the Italian culture. And secondly, and I think maybe more ominously, where do we go from here when, if ever, things go back to normal? The first part of it, I think, what it illustrates is how much soccer and Serie A is woven into the Italian culture. It's about cultural definition, whether you define that by the region or city you're from or from the country that you belong to. The absence of it denies people an outlet that they normally have. Soccer is an obsession in Italy. It is a very particular kind of relationship between the country and the sport. All countries play soccer, but in Italy, there's a very particular kind of romance between the society and the sport itself.
Of course, and there is so many different scenarios, so much, I guess, confusion about where the end of the season for Serie A could lie, whether it is a playoff bracket, whether they cancel it and start it again next season. I'm curious, as a soccer fan, what do you think would be your best bet? What would probably make a lot of people happy? What would make sense to end off the Serie A season?
Well, I think that's the sort of ominous part of things. I know that there are people who would like to see the Serie A standings frozen where they were when the season was suspended, and then sort of unfreeze it 2 or 3 months down the road and end it that way. I'm not sure that's necessarily the best way to go forward, because I think the future means a re-examination, perhaps a complete overhaul of the way that soccer is organized, the way the games are attended, what happens at the venues. It really is at this point in the pandemic and the shutdown, it's impossible to imagine 30, 40, 50,000 people in a stadium, packed into a stadium watching two teams of 11 players. No matter how glamorous the teams and the players are, that situation is unimaginable. My feeling is that the football authorities in Italy, in conjunction with UEFA and FIFA, need to rethink what happens. They need to rethink the way in which games are played, who can attend, how many people can attend, the space, the social distance between players, the social distance between fans in the stadium, the interaction between people. There is no way around this in the short term, because the realistic outlook is that this pandemic situation will last for several months. There might then be a lifting of some restrictions, but it is likely to return later in the year. I think leave it as it is. The standings are what they were when it was suspended. Just wait. And then when a new protocol can be figured out for how games are played, then finish the season. But if it takes 6 months, 8 months, or we have to wait until next spring, so be it.
Of course, safety comes first. And you did mention 30, 40,000 people in a stadium. We saw it happen at the Atalanta versus Valencia game, where some sources say that that could actually be ground zero for the spread of coronavirus in Europe. So there has to be a way to continue playing soccer without putting fans at risk.
Yes, I mean that's a very sensible point, and I think it was in the German media it was pointed out that that particular Champions League game, because it involved an Italian team and a Spanish team, could well be ground zero for the initial spread in certain parts of Italy and then in Spain, because there were thousands of people from supporters from Spain who went to that match. I do think, though, if there is one good thing that comes out of this peculiar situation, it affords an opportunity for people in Italy to, I think, to reassess the role of soccer in the culture there, to think about what it means in the larger culture. In Italy, there is a more intense attention paid to soccer than there is in some other countries. Um, Soccer is thought of as a highly skilled game. It's a vocation. To become a professional player is like becoming a doctor, lawyer, or architect. It's a serious matter. And that is a different approach from what you might see in England. The way in which local rivalries are played out by proxy through soccer is a very important part of it. And an example of that is for anybody who is missing soccer, there's a great documentary, I think it was on HBO, and it's probably still available for many people, about Diego Maradona. And it's about that period he played at Napoli. It's not about, his entire life, but it concentrates on that. And that truly illustrates the importance of a team to a city, a community in Italy. I think that might come back stronger than ever. I think there might be an opportunity here to reassess the nature of the game, the emphasis on tactics, a way to move forward with perhaps a more expansive style of soccer. It might involve having more Italian players and fewer players from other countries. This is possibly an optimistic time in that sense, in that you get to think about the meaning of the game, how it's played, and why it matters to people in Italy.
Absolutely. And I think it's curious to see how important these athletes become to each city. Maradona to Napoli, you have Totti for Rome. There's these icons that we follow. And here in Canada, what I found was curious was that nobody actually took the virus seriously until the first NBA player caught coronavirus, until the NBA shut down. And then it finally had a tone of, this is something serious. What do you think it is about sports that drives people's actions so much?
Well, I think sports is the eternal and most powerful distraction in any society, certainly in any Western society. It happens all the time. There are plenty of professional sports. There is hardly a day goes by that there isn't a professional team playing in Major League Soccer, in the NBA, in baseball. It is a way for people to cope with their daily lives, in that it's a distraction. And like anywhere else, people invest emotionally in teams and in players in the same way that people in some city in the US will invest heavily in a star NBA player. People in Italy will invest in someone like Totti in playing for Roma. And it's I think an underestimated emotional power. And then when it evaporates, as it did with the shutdown in North America, I think it finally brings home to people just how ominous this is, just how difficult things are going to be.
Absolutely. And I think it also puts into perspective that sometimes when you idolize these players and there's a complete shutdown, you realize who the essential people truly, truly are. And those are the frontline workers, the doctors, the nurses, the journalists, the people that help keep society going.
Yes, and I think it's to the credit of some star players in various countries around the world who have said openly, this is a point where you understand that football doesn't really matter that much. It's a distraction, it's entertainment, but there are more important things in life. And when life goes back to normal, finally, that's when we have time for the entertainment of football.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, for always being so willing to discuss soccer and Serie A with all of our viewers.
Thank you, Camilla, and good luck with everything in this strange, strange time.
You as well. Thanks.